When she knocked on my door, she wasn't angry. She just wanted to know if I loved him too. That's the sentence that still wakes me up sometimes. Her voice. Calm, not breaking, not bitter. Just calm. Like she'd already cried all her tears elsewhere and came to my door carrying only truth. I remember standing there, frozen, one hand still on the handle, the other clutching the edge of my cardigan like it could protect me from the kind of woman I'd never been brave enough to be. Honest. She wasn't beautiful the way I'd imagined her, or maybe she was, just differently. Her beauty was lived in, softened by years of motherhood and compromise. She looked like someone who had once believed in forever and was now learning that forever is shorter than you think when love turns sideways. And she asked me, not shouted, not accused, just asked, "Did you love him too?" And I, who had rehearsed 1,000 excuses in the mirror, couldn't remember any of them. That moment wasn't the beginning of our story. It was the end. But endings only make sense when you've walked through the beginning, when you've believed the lie that started it all. He just needs someone to listen. His name was Adrian, and before he was a mistake, he was charm in its purest form. I met him at a charity dinner, the kind of event where people pretend to care about art while secretly judging the wine. I was helping a friend with the silent auction, arranging envelopes and pretending to be someone who belonged there. Adrian walked in late, rain on his shoulders, that effortless confidence some men are born with, the kind that looks like kindness until you realize it's hunger. He made everyone feel seen, but that night, he looked at me a second longer than necessary, just enough to make me feel like I'd been singled out from the crowd. "You look like someone who doesn't belong here either," he said with a grin, like he'd found a co-conspirator. It was harmless at first, the banter, the lingering conversations, the way he'd find me in a crowded room as if drawn by gravity. He talked about music, about books, about how his wife had grown distant, and I, foolish, empathetic me, listened with the kind of compassion that feels noble until it isn't. I should have walked away the first time he said, "You understand me better than she ever has." But loneliness makes flattery sound like destiny. At that time, my own marriage had been unraveling quietly, not from shouting or betrayal, but from indifference. I was invisible at home, and suddenly this man saw me. He noticed the little things, the perfume I wore, the songs I hummed absent-mindedly, the way I twisted my ring when I was nervous. He made me feel fascinating again, as if the years hadn't dulled my edges. We started with coffee, always daylight, always public. I told myself it was innocent. That's how guilt begins, with rationalizations dressed as boundaries. But there's a moment, a single, irreversible moment, when friendship tips into something else. For us, it was a Thursday afternoon. The rain had caught us outside a cafe, and instead of running to our cars, we stood under one umbrella, close enough for silence to feel electric. He brushed a strand of wet hair from my face, and that was it, the first betrayal. Not of my husband, not even of his wife, but of myself. Because deep down, I knew what I was becoming, and I let it happen. That touch rewired something. After that day, our texts grew longer, our excuses shorter. "I can't stop thinking about you" turned into "when can I see you?" And soon, we weren't drinking coffee anymore. We were drinking confessions. He told me he was trapped, that his marriage was dead, that his wife didn't understand him. I believed him because it made what we were doing feel less cruel. He said, "You make me feel alive," and I mistook that for love. There were moments that felt cinematic. Hotel rooms smelling of lilies and rain, whispered promises in dim light, laughter muffled by guilt. But between those moments was silence, silence thick with knowing. Because when you love someone who belongs to someone else, every joy comes pre-packaged with sorrow. I started lying, not big lies, just the kind that rot slowly. I'm working late. I'm visiting a friend. Each lie was a stone in my chest, but the more I carried, the lighter they seemed. Until that morning. He was supposed to meet me, but instead, there was a knock at my door. When I opened it, she was standing there. His wife. I recognized her instantly from the picture he'd once shown me on his phone, saying, We were happy once. She looked tired, but not broken. There was no rage in her eyes, only the quiet, devastating certainty of a woman who has run out of denial. "I'm not here to fight," she said. "I just need to understand." And then she asked the question that still lives under my skin. "Do you love him too?" I could have lied. I could have said no and ended it right there. But I'd spent so long drowning in lies that I couldn't bear another one. So I told her the truth, or at least the truth I could manage. "I thought I did," I whispered. "But I think I love the way he made me feel, not who he was." She nodded, as if that confirmed what she already knew. "That's how he loves too," she said quietly. "Through mirrors. He loves himself in your reflection." She thanked me. Can you imagine? She thanked me for being honest, for helping her see the shape of the thing she was already leaving behind. And then she turned and walked away. I watched her go, barefoot resolve wrapped in dignity. That was the day I ended it. Not because I was noble, but because I couldn't live with the kind of love that required someone else's pain to exist. When I told him, he begged, he promised. He swore he would leave her. "We can start over," he said. "We deserve to be happy." But happiness built on wreckage never stands. I told him, "You can't build love from the ruins of someone else's heart." He called for weeks, then months. Eventually, silence returned, heavier than before, but cleaner. It took me years to understand that what I called love was really validation. The desperate hunger to be chosen by someone who didn't belong to me because I had forgotten how to choose myself. I saw him once more, years later, at a bookstore of all places. He looked older, tired, like a man who'd been outrun by his own charm. He smiled, and for a heartbeat, I felt the ghost of what we once were. Then I saw the ring still on his finger, and I smiled back with the calm of someone who no longer needs to be anyone's secret. That night, I wrote in my journal, "Love doesn't hide. It doesn't whisper behind closed doors or apologize for existing. It doesn't ask you to shrink so it can grow. Real love is daylight. It stands where it can be seen." I think that's what his wife understood before I did. She didn't come to punish me. She came to set me free, from him, from guilt, from the illusion that being desired was the same as being loved. Sometimes, when it rains, I think of her. I imagine her somewhere new, somewhere peaceful. And I hope she found someone who looked at her not as a reflection, but as a whole world. As for me, I learned what love isn't. And that lesson, painful as it was, saved me.